Lauren, thank you for having this conversation or willingly allowing me to record this conversation so that it can help others. And I want to help as much as I can. So why don't you give some context in whatever way that you feel comfortable and can, and then we'll dive into however I can help answer.
Okay, great. I'm 32. I graduated in the recession with a degree in journalism. I've worked in newspapers and television and radio for the last 10 years. I have been around PIOs and in emergency situations where I've responded to emergency situations on the ground as a reporter, but then also as a TV and digital producer, watching and directing field crews and also navigating official sources. And so I know our industry is changing a lot, and I know that, a lot of people in my position are really passionate about helping people and getting the word out in a very in a good way where people get information that is correct and quick and informative and useful. And so I just see a lot of shift in my industry. And so I'm wondering what you have to say for people like me who are in journalism, who work in television and news, who see this who work in tragedy every day. And so I feel like I am a crisis communications responder, but not in a sort of private company sort of situation.
Your experience gives you a unique edge. It's unique. It's from kind of the outside that you want to go in, right? And you see, as a result of that, you've seen so much that plays into your expertise and the value that you can offer an organization. So you want to get into crisis management, crisis communication as a profession, right? You kind of want to switch lanes.
Yes.
It's kind of just crossing over a lane. I don't even see it as, because of the experience that you've shared that you have. I think the biggest thing, what are you proactively looking for positions or for work?
Not at the moment. I just started. And so one thing about journalism, which is challenging when you look at my resume, is that there are layoffs, things move around a lot. So it looks like I jump companies. Like I've been in 8 months at one place, a year at another place. My longest stint at a TV station was 3 years, but I've been in the business. So it almost makes me look unstable. So in my recent role, we were downsizing, so I moved to another television station. So if you look at my resume, you're like, wow, this girl's moved around a lot. But I know that. I wonder from your experience if you would like to see more stability in a role, or if people understand that's part of the industry.
So here is my perspective, and it's only my perspective, right? That's all I can offer is my lens and my perspective and my experience, and then you take with it what you will and however it can serve. Hopefully it does. I refuse to see barriers. So, and I've learned that about myself in the sense of, even when people ask me, you're a woman, you started in this, you were a young woman, how did you manage to be heard at leadership tables in dire situations and respected when women have such, over time, such this barrier of getting into these boardrooms? And those boardrooms typically, now we're starting to see change, but typically it's boardroom of men. And my response was, what are you talking about? Right? Like I refuse to see barriers. There are probably obstacles, but I look over that. So the fact that your truth is that you're not unstable. You are stable because even with all of the flexibility the flexibility that was imposed upon you and the change that is a part of the industry that you're in, and especially since, the digital era and all of the impact that that's had on the industry, I would see that as different. You always had a job. So It's the way that you choose to see it and then I have a friend who's brilliant who says people are with you the way that you allow them to be. So for example, bringing it back to kind of like my little story is I refuse to have the fact that I was young, I was, you know, a good looking blonde, young professional hinder my opportunity to serve and to help when I knew that I could. So that was just my attitude. And that was, and I may have overcompensated when I opened my mouth to be like knowing that I needed to be at the top of my game and make all of my points very sharp and very matter of fact and have authority and all of that. But that was, I refuse to see the obstacle. I look at your obstacle and I don't see it as an obstacle. I see it as the opposite. And any employer or partner that doesn't see it that way, one, it depends on how you bring it to the table and how you position it through your lens and through your confidence. And two, anybody who doesn't see it that way, then doesn't get it and isn't right for you. And it's such a small thing. And then I'll add to that. I'll say that your resume stand out. Like the even just a resume, I think that there's so much opportunity today to go far beyond kind of like the press release. I say the press release is dead when it comes to crisis communication, like in crisis communication. Press
Yeah,
release is a secondary means of communication.
it's social
Um,
media for sure.
well, social owning your own message, right? We don't have to
Mhm.
feed to the media and hope that they pick it up. We can communicate to our stakeholders and the media will come, and we're also feeding the media. um, the resume should be dead, like that paper, right, that document, that PDF. There's so much opportunity to stand out that and to showcase who you are and what you bring to the table. And for example, put your resume in the form of a video that you send instead, a very short, like 2-3 minutes, where you get to communicate the message that, and you're in journalism, so this is your hot spot, this is your sweet spot. So find ways to, if you're worried that there may be an obstacle, then figure out how you're going to overcome that by not allowing it to be an obstacle. And you getting on camera, for example, and talking about your experience and what you bring to the table and what you're looking for and who you are, and framing what they might see as a, let's say, a dated, archaic mindset of risk, and framing that as a, you know, versus instability versus you always have a job and you are always committed and you are always proactively working and you are always serving, and you know, all of these things. Give yourself the opportunity to not let that even be a fragment of a second of a thought that can hinder you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's, that's really powerful to hear that there is another way, because I've been told about visual resumes, where you use graphics and blurbs, but I like the idea of doing a video, because I think that so often it's just a name on a paper and people
That's
don't
all it
really,
is.
and it's difficult, especially with all of these technologies where people can apply online. They're probably getting thousands of requests for one, for candidates, but it's also difficult because a lot of these companies only want you to submit a resume in a traditional format. So they don't really allow you to upload videos or anything. They say, like, plug in your information here, and
So
you know
plug in a link on YouTube, a private link that, for example, especially in the field that you're looking to go, so crisis management, look at, so if you wanted to apply to the Red Cross, for example, or the International Committee of the Red Cross, the progressive work that they do is inspiring. And you're right that even before technology where we could apply virtually, resumes were still a name on a paper and a paper amongst a pile on somebody's desk. Being different and standing out and showcasing who you are and your, with when it comes to, so for example, humanitarian work and crisis management, you need to be creative. You need to think out of the box. The world crisis of Ebola was managed through the use of WhatsApp, which
Mhm.
was the strategy developed by a division within the BBC. Like, that's still today remains my most inspiring story that I've ever heard, and makes so many valid points. So if you want to do the work that you want to do, and I think that you can bring to the table, then it's showcasing, making that real. Practice what you can deliver through application.
Do you feel like that comes with volunteerism as well? If I'm looking to go into something like the Red Cross or, some sort of humanitarian group, do you recommend that?
I can put you in communication and gladly with some friends of mine who are who do humanitarian work as their profession, and they can speak more to the process and like just different unique ways that you might angle that and what might benefit you in terms of actions and volunteer and all of these different strategies. I'd be happy to put you in contact with them. The other thing too, and they're wonderful humans. The other thing too is I don't know if you do have it because I didn't go see, but if you have, you should have a personal website.
I still am kind of building it.
Okay. And it's simple. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Do it for sure.
But they're going to Google you.
Yeah.
And especially they should Google you. And especially if you're giving something virtual, virtual kind of augmented and getting to know you more profoundly, more as a human than as a piece of paper or PDF. Give them somewhere to link back to and get more of you.
I like that idea. And I think another question that I have for you is, do you believe in sort of another degree? Like I got my degree in 2008 in journalism when print was still a thing. I've obviously developed and, in my career, but do you think that companies want, a secondary, like a master's? Do you see that as a hurdle in today's crisis communications world?
I'm the wrong person to answer that question because I don't have a degree. And I believe and yet, I mean, if you were to put my knowledge and my studies and all of that into a degree, I would have several.
Yeah.
But I don't have a piece of paper that says life took me a different way and I learned differently. And I'm not the right person. And then I look at some of my most successful friends, and success on every account don't have degrees. They have their high school diplomas and they've built businesses and sold businesses for multi-million dollars, or they're saving lives in different fields, or you know what I mean? Like, so I'm the wrong person to ask. Now, hold on. Let me kind of make a caveat here and say that, I do believe in education, and whatever form speaks most to you. For me, it was self-education. I have the discipline and the drive, and the passion to do that. I also agree that, there's a reason why my crisis ready model there's course curriculum that's being built around the world. And that's important to me. So I'm not disqualifying education at all. I'm just saying that I wouldn't let that hinder you. And I wouldn't look at it. This is probably my problem too, is that I never think like, do other people want that of me? It's more of, do I want it of myself, and do I need it to achieve what I'm looking to achieve and to serve the way that I want to serve? I reframe, like my lens is a little bit different than.
And I appreciate that because, I see so many times that, oh, well, you should get another degree. But in my field in communications, it's like trying to catch a fish with your hands. Like it's so slippery. Things change all the time. And by the time they even build a curriculum, it's outdated.
Yeah, well, yeah, except the ones that they're building around my book, because we're working towards that not being the truth anymore, the reality, because you're right. And the other thing too is that the practice that you have in the field that you currently have in your experience and through your work is multiple degrees worthy. So, and then, I also I'm somebody who likes to move fast. When I set a goal, I work towards those goals, I accomplish, and then I'm on to my next goal. And I see it as a lot of people don't really move as quickly as I do, and that's perfectly fine. But I would wonder if getting another degree is a way of procrastinating.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I think it's also interesting, with all of the politics of today, the show Scandal, people love the idea of a crisis communications role.
Have you seen the video that I've put out on that?
I haven't watched the Scandal one.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. I'll put a link below this video too, or this podcast. But yeah, I have a problem with that. It's a risk to organizations as a result.
And building credibility with a company and just being able to be trustworthy and be able to articulate with the media. What are some other sort of skill sets that you would recommend for somebody like me who is in journalism, who cares about the community, who cares about getting things right? But we also work fast. And so, I know a lot of times corporations and private companies want to, roll out information in a more controlled manner. So do you see that as the future, how does that kind of relate in terms of the changing industries?
Well, in the sense of crisis management, that's a hinderer, right? If they do it, if they want to control everything and they want with speed and accuracy are both musts, um, as you know. So I think that the answer there goes to the culture of the organization that you work with. Um, you want a culture that is flexible, that understands the realities. If you go towards, the humanitarian side of things, then you just kind of want to, and again, speaking with some people within that field, that profession, they'll be able to point you in the direction of, these entities are really progressive and they move fast and they think outside the box and they welcome people with different experience that will lend to that, because the end goal really in humanitarian work is safety and saving lives and being proactive within communities in crisis. Culturally, like for a private corporation, if you wanted to go that route, then I would look at, again, the culture. You want to be a good fit, right? To serve, to provide the most value, and to gain the most value, to feed you as well as a professional, as a human, and drive you, enable to put a fire under your passion and allow that to continue to really take off and be driven.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that you have a lot of skill set. I would do a video. I would make sure that I have a website. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be you, and showcase all of the wonderful things that that you bring to the table, and look at whatever questions or hesitations may come through whatever lens. And it could be the archaic mindset of, or just the ignorant mindset of, well, you're in the media and how come you didn't, how come you switched around a lot? I say ignorant because if you don't realize, then you're ignorant on that subject. But just if that to you is a potential hesitation, then build your message points and your communications, and to mitigate that, get ahead of it, like everything, right? That's crisis ready.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been really rewarding, and I really appreciate, the insight, because I think that a lot of people don't know what to do, and you just do the traditional, email blast of all these different companies, and I think that displaying something more creative and more personal is what I want to do, and it is about finding the right fit.
Awesome.
But yeah, I like helping people. And today I'm working on Hurricane Florence. So
Oh, fingers crossed that.
yeah, it's gonna be a busy weekend. So
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you do. And if when you're creating those things, if you want to shoot me an email and get my take on something, happy to help if you think that I can.
absolutely, I will definitely do that.
Awesome. Good luck, Lauren.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Bye.